Take a listen to this. This is Dan Wetzel. It's on the NFL and the whole Deshaun Watson situation. This is, again, from the You Pod to Win the Game NFL podcast.
Yeah, I am cynical, but I have also been watching the National Football League and observing them and covering them for many years. They don't really want Deshaun Watson suspended for long. They want him on the field playing games. What they want is it to appear that they want Deshaun Watson to be suspended.
I agree with that.
They want it to appear that they don't want their owners going to the Orchards of Asia Day Spa on the day of the AFC Championship game. But in truth, the owners are the league. So if they come out with the punishment comes out 6 games and it's too short. Hey man, we tried to stand up for women. Let's do another pink jersey month. We care that, but hey, Deshaun's making his return Sunday Night Football. Let's go. $25 million a watch.
And Daniel, it is a cynical view, but again, it's about the public relations. And that's the bottom line is the league has to be concerned about the look.
Of course. I mean, there's not only a kernel of truth in what Dan and Charles were saying on that podcast, but I mean, Exhibit A for this is the Ray Rice situation. The NFL knew that Ray Rice had done all these horrible things to his wife, but until it was caught on tape, they felt they could impose a suspension that they could get away with it. And when the public began to say, wait a second, you've suspended him, you're only giving him 2 games or 4 games, then it becomes a different dynamic entirely. And in resolving the Deshaun Watson suspension, this matter easily could have been settled by the league and by Watson's team and arriving at some middle ground of 8 games. That's a level that both sides could probably live with, but the NFL will come under attack if they levy only an 8-game suspension or settle for 8 games when there are 25 lawsuits, 21 settlements, potentially up to 66 victims. They have to take a stand here, and they would much rather that Judge Robinson impose an 8-game suspension than for the league to consensually agree to an 8-game suspension, because then you have the findings and conclusions of law and sentence meted out by a 25-year plus retired federal district judge. It's less likely to be assailed by the public, by the media, or by anyone within league circles. But the goal for Judge Robinson, or at least the delicate balancing act, is where do you find a suspension amount where neither side will take an appeal that will be palatable to each party. And as I've said previously on the podcast, I think the 8-game range would be the bare minimum that the NFL could conceivably walk away from. And in Watson's case, 8 games gets him back on the field before the end of the regular season and provides the Browns and Watson with some clarity. Obviously, the best case situation for Deshaun Watson is 0 games, but there's very little prospect of that happening. And if he gets any suspension beginning with 1 game, or even if it's just non-suspension discipline such as counseling or a fine, that opens the door to the NFL taking an appeal directly to the league commissioner, Roger Goodell, who has the ability and discretion bargained away to him by the Players Association to modify that discipline upwards or downward, but we know it's going to go upwards based on the evidentiary record. And that is 4 or 5, based on those are very critical words. I'm not very good at math while I'm being interviewed, but the words based on the evidentiary record mean that Roger Goodell can impose any higher amount of discipline he wants without owing any deference to Judge Robinson's findings as to the suitable punishment, or even the findings as to whether and to what extent the violations occurred. The only limitations on Roger Goodell's ability to upwardly increase the sentence is if Judge Robinson finds that the personal conduct policy was not violated from Roger Goodell. It was not violated by Deshaun Watson. But the moment any discipline is meted out by Judge Robinson, that's a door opener for the National Football League to appeal to Roger Goodell and for Goodell to impose the recommended discipline of 1 year or more. And faced with that reality, I think Deshaun Watson's camp would walk away and accept an 8-game suspension because of the risk that Roger Goodell would increase it by more than double. And if the Players Association and Watson think that they're going to win this case in federal court, the Deflategate decision of several years ago essentially closes the door on Watson's team from succeeding in federal court, because under the Deflategate rationale, as long as Roger Goodell was acting within the scope of his authority under the CBA, the federal courts cannot interfere with or vacate his arbitration decision. And what is Roger Goodell doing in this instance? He's acting within the scope of the specific authorization that the Players Association ceded to him in the 2020 CBA by expressly conferring onto him the ability to modify the suspension based only on the evidentiary record in his reading of it. So I don't know what Watson's argument is. If you roll the dice with an appeal, take it to Commissioner Goodell on a let's say an 8-game ruling that you want to maybe reduce. He increases it to 16 games or longer. He's got no chance or next to no chance in a federal court lawsuit. That's why Judge Robinson's ruling here is essentially the best case or best chance that Watson has of getting out of the 2022 season, playing some part of it, because he won't get relief from the federal courts and he won't get any mercy from Roger Goodell. His best course of action and best chances for success in getting a less than 1 year suspension and in vindicating his disparate discipline argument is going to be with Judge Robinson. It's not going to come from anybody else.